We'll go ahead and get started. First off, kudos to everyone here. This is the last session of the day. This has been going on for a long time today. These last sessions are always hard to try to decide. You're looking outside and it's like, oh man, the sun's setting. This is usually when I'm headed home from work. Well, I assume many of you. But thank you very much for coming. Here is my promise to you, and you can hold me to this. If I don't meet this, you come up to me at the Ask the Experts thing right after this. You tell me I'm a liar, I'll give you, I don't know, free stickers or something. But you will see some of the coolest demos and some of the most innovative stuff that you've seen all day today in this session. Honestly, we've got some amazing stuff. Kind of as a little bit of a preface, so the session is Connect Your Business Faster with Logic Apps and API Management. I'm Jeff Holland. I'm a program manager in Seattle. I work on the Azure engineering team. I focus primarily on a service called Azure Logic Apps. The lights are so bright that I would ask people to raise their hands if they were using Azure or had heard of Azure Logic Apps before, but I wouldn't even be able to see if you did. But I'm excited for the chance to get to travel out from Seattle to come to places like Chicago, talk about stuff like this. I'll be around tonight at the Ask the Experts. But I guess even just to preface this and why I feel so confident that the stuff you're going to see here is going to be some of the coolest stuff you've seen. If you notice, there was a news article today posted by Microsoft, by Satya Nadella, talking about artificial intelligence and the way that things are moving forward and how Microsoft wants to pave the way and democratize machine learning and artificial intelligence so that your apps, so that your systems, so that your services, so that your interaction with your customers and your employees can be more intelligent and powerful. And some of the stuff I'm going to show you today will help you understand how that is not that far out of reach, that you can very easily plug that power and that logic and that capability into the applications that you're working with today. So with a premise like that, I want to start. I guess I have a clicker. I don't have to keep walking over here. OK, so we have the opportunity in Seattle. We have a lot of CIOs who come and travel to our executive briefing center, and they'll talk to us about what's our strategy. They explain, here's where our investments are, here's what we're doing. And there was a story that one of the CIOs told us that we loved, and I wanted to start by explaining that, which is, so the CIO, he asked his business leaders and his IT group the same question. And he said, pick an animal that best describes the agility of your IT team. So he got all the business leaders, and he said, what's your answer? And he got all the IT leaders and said, what's your answer? And as you would expect, IT responded with, you know what, we've been trying this whole DevOps thing. We're doing bimodal or all these whatever IT buzzwords they've been working with. We're so much more agile than we were 10 years ago. We're a cheetah. I mean, look at that. That is a beautiful animal. Every part of that body is doing exactly what it needs to be doing so that it is fast and agile and doing what it needs to do. And of course, when the CIO looked at the responses from the business leaders and said, what animal describes your IT group? They responded with this animal. Very different from the cheetah, right? It's not nearly as beautiful. It's beautiful in its own way, kind of a creepy dinosaur-y way. It's got a hard protective shell. It's slow. It's a little bit defensive, very defensive. If you want to get a turtle to do something, it's not the easiest thing in the world to do, right? So one of the challenges that we see from Microsoft and one of the motivations we have in developing the solutions we have is how do we close this gap in perception? Right? How do we make it so what the business leaders perceive or what they want is actually what IT is delivering and that there's not that huge gap in perception? So in order to understand why or how to fix the gap, we need to understand what's driving this gap. The first thing I would mention, so I could have started this by saying how many here are in the room are a CIO. And I would imagine we might have one. Oh, look, we got one. So we have two CIOs. That's good, but not everyone. So obviously this first bullet point, I clicked too soon. Right? So while you might not be the CIO of a company or the CTO of a company, how many of you here are the CIO or the CTO, the person who's in charge of all the purchasing decisions or fixing stuff when it's broken in your home? Right? How many of you are that person that your internet goes down, oh, you've got to go reset the router, you need a new printer, I've got to figure out which one to get, you need a new app, you get a new smartwatch, whatever it is. Everyone is now becoming a CIO or a CTO in some form. We have smartphones, and we expect that applications are going to perform the same way they do for me in my consumer life. I think one of the coolest things for Christmas, I got a few things. One of the things is I got a new, I guess old, this thing's a dinosaur now, but I got a Microsoft Band, which is discontinued, I guess. And what blows my mind is that I have a band app on my phone. I have a bathroom scale that syncs with Fitbit. And I have some dashboard in the cloud through Microsoft Health. And so all the steps that I take and all my weight and my body fat and the food that I eat through MyFitnessPal, all that stuff is automatically synced together and created for me in this seamless experience. That's incredible. And as a consumer with things like Cortana and Alexa, just having things work right out of the box is becoming the standard. If I have to spend more than 5 minutes to figure something out, I uninstall the app and go grab a new one. So people are getting that expectation with how solutions are delivered, and then they show up to work, and they're like, well, how come all my sales data isn't as accessible as my fitness data, right? Why is my Fitbit data so much easier to get than my sales data? And obviously, we know that there's a lot of reasons for that. I mentioned that there's an app for that. All apps are connected in first class. And we live in a self-service world, right? To travel out here to Chicago, I had to book a hotel, I had to book flights, I had to make sure that I had taxi service, or Uber in my case, from the airport to my hotel. I didn't have to talk to any human beings to make any of that happen, right? I did all of that on my phone, I don't know, probably laying in my bed, booked the flight, booked the hotel, got the Uber ride once I landed. So everything's self-service, and again, we're expecting that from the solutions that we get at work. So the product leader for API management, Logic Apps, the whole integration solution in Azure, he says that the ever-increasing speed of innovation outside of work influences public perception on IT at work. Okay? So that's the problem we live in, or I guess an opportunity, which is why we really want to empower companies and organizations and individuals to experience this digital transformation, helping make it so that their applications are everywhere, their data is accessible, and everything can be connected into new kind of greenfield type scenarios like IoT or artificial intelligence, allowing that connectivity to be very seamless. And obviously, for any of that to work, you need integration. Those pieces need to be able to talk to each other. Now, they're not always built to talk to each other. I might be working with some mainframe database on premises, and now my company has just acquired a huge contract with Salesforce. Salesforce and IBM DB2 are completely different beasts, but I now need them to talk to each other. And so we're working hard to provide tools to you to make that type of integration much easier. So again, this isn't just me up here breathing a bunch of hot air. Industry experts agree on this challenge of integrating and connecting your different systems and services. So 75% of large organizations will establish a hybrid integration platform by 2020, figuring out how their on-premises data can talk to new cloud data, integrating them seamlessly together. When it comes to building applications, in this case mobile applications, 70% of the cost is just integration, right? If you think about it, an app, a very small part of it is just the actual UI, the fields and the inputs or whatnot. Most of the work when it comes to building an app is having it talk to the database, having it have all the pieces you need to talk to the actual data that it's going to present to the user. And when it comes to IoT, half of the cost is going to be integrating IoT components with each other. So we have a customer in Canada. It is TransAlta, and they are the largest renewable energy provider in all of Canada. And they were doing a new IoT project in the last few months where they had a bunch of windmills, and they wanted to stick a bunch of IoT devices on those windmills so they knew if something broke. And that's really cool, and you hear that, and you're like, awesome, let's go make these windmills smart. And they went and stuck all those devices on the windmills, and then they're like, well, great, now what, right? Now we have millions of events getting emitted from these windmills, so it's really noisy when something's broken, but that's only half of the story. So what they were able to do is they used Azure and services like Logic Apps and API management so that whenever a windmill emitted an event like, oh, hey, I'm overheating, or whenever a windmill went offline, an incident could automatically be created in ServiceNow. An on-site technician could be alerted to say, hey, go check out this windmill. And all of that could happen seamlessly without anyone having to get, a call from a customer saying, it looks like my windmill broke up. I don't know how windmills work. I assume there's no customers, but you get the idea. Okay? So let's talk about Microsoft's hybrid integration platform. I'm going to go over quickly some of the products. I'll do this one. If you have questions on more of these, I'll show a few in the demos, which I'm going to get to quickly, because I know that's the best part. But at the core of the integration platform are two services. One of them is Azure Logic Apps. One of them is BizTalk Server. BizTalk Server has been around for a number of years. It is the industry standard of integration. A number of Fortune 500 companies, banks are using BizTalk Server to orchestrate data as they need. And Logic Apps is relatively new to the scene. It just became generally available in late July. You might know Logic Apps by its sister, which is Microsoft Flow. Microsoft Flow is built 100% on top of Logic Apps. It is the consumerified version of Logic Apps. I'll go into that briefly in a little bit. But this is a cloud-based orchestration engine. So Logic Apps enables you to do things like, hey, whenever a record gets created in Dynamics 365, or whenever a document gets uploaded into SharePoint, I need to go and fire off a workflow, or I need to go push that data somewhere else. And you can go and design that directly in the Azure portal, and that all happens for you. But you get all the benefits of a cloud service, right? So you get scalability and security and all those ilities that everyone loves. But the great thing about Logic Apps is it's serverless. So you don't have to worry about managing any infrastructure. And you only pay for what you use. So let's say you built that Logic app that I just explained, which was whenever a document gets uploaded into SharePoint, go stick the same document in, I don't know, Azure Storage and email the document to me. And that thing only runs twice. You're going to get paid less, you charge less than a cent, right? There's no upfront cost, there's no infrastructure fee, you just pay for what you use. And then the very next day, let's say someone uploads millions of documents, well, those are just going to all process automatically for you, and then you only get charged for 1 million actions, and it's something like 0.0004 cents per action, so it's still relatively cheap. Now, surrounding Logic Apps and BizTalk Server are obviously all the different connectors, so those pieces that you need to talk to. Now, these are some of the out-of-the-box connectors that we have, ranging from more consumer-y products like Dropbox to more enterprise things like IBM, SAP, and Oracle. We have, I think, today 95 different connectors, and that list is growing all of the time. I think we have 6 being deployed this week from partners and within Microsoft itself that are managed for you. And you also have a suite of Azure services that you connect to seamlessly as well. So if you have NoSQL databases, you can use Azure Document DB as a step within one of your workflows. Or if you're working with machine learning, cognitive services, I'll get into some of these in a little bit. One of our favorites is this Azure Functions. I don't think this laser pointer works, but that's fine. It's in like the rightest section, which just went generally available, which is serverless compute. It's like AWS Lambda, but it's in the Azure cloud, so you can execute code on demand. And then finally, surrounding this, other than connectors, there's also what's called Azure Service Bus. So this is the service bus queuing mechanism in Azure, so you can have reliable messaging. It's really important that as you're passing messages across either on-premises or the cloud, or maybe you're passing messages between different parties, you don't want that message to get lost in the internet, right? You don't want to say, hey, I sent you that $1 million order, and you're saying you never got it. Oops, right? That's not something you can say oops about. So Azure Service Bus gives you, guaranteed delivery, all that great requirements that you'd require for passing messages through. And then finally, Azure API Management, which I'll go into in a moment, which allows you to protect, manage, monitor, and deploy your APIs very easily. All right, let's get into some more stories. So this is a list. Oops, this clicker is very jumpy. Let me go back. So this is a list of the connectors that we have today. You'll notice we have a ton. Just go on to our website. You'll see them all. I don't know if you necessarily need to see it, but it's just to show you if you're using a popular service, there's a good chance that we have a connector for it. And if we don't have a connector for it, there's a good chance we're working on it now, and it will be available soon. And this list is growing all of the time. My favorite portion of this list are all those Azure services, as I mentioned. You get really excited about something like Azure Machine Learning. You're like, great, we've made some big investments in this. Now I need to make something of it. And you can use Logic Apps to start saying, hey, maybe we can start pushing tweets through machine learning, or maybe we can start pushing customer reviews through machine learning and chain that stuff together. OK, so just another breakdown. I'm going to iterate again. API management, which lets you create API front ends or back ends to monitor your API. Logic Apps, BizTalk Server, and Service Bus. I'll go into all these deeper. I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time draining all these slides, because I gave you a great promise about a demo. I really want to get to that soon, even if it means we finish a little bit early. So what does a Logic app look like? How can this integration work? So you'll notice you might trigger on something like monitor Salesforce. So whenever I add a new lead in Salesforce, I need to go process that and connect that to different pieces. That could be other services like Box or Azure SQL. You can connect to your own APIs or systems, either on-premises or in the cloud through API management. You can also use what is called the on-premises data gateway to have access to other on-premises data like BizTalk server installations. So that was a duplicate slide. BizTalk server installations or IBM DB2. This is a logic app that I've been working on that's pretty cool. I won't show you this now, but I monitor Twitter whenever we come to an event like this. So you notice it's like hashtag MS Tech Summit or something. So I have a logic app right now that's running and listening to that hashtag. And anytime a tweet comes in, it pushes that through Azure Cognitive Services. And Cognitive Services can do cool things with text like pull out the phrases that people are talking about, give you a sentiment score. So like, is this a really happy tweet or is this a really angry tweet? And it gives you a nice score. And then I'm getting all those tweets and I'm pushing them real time to a Power BI dashboard. So I have a Power BI dashboard that I'll probably show you later with all of the tweets that people are having, as well as the sentiment and the phrases that people are talking about. So again, building those types of new powerful solutions is very easily with things like logic apps. One of our customers that we love is eSmart Solutions. They actually provide energy management solutions for a number of partners. So if you're an energy provider and you want to be able to monitor your energy, providingness, eSmart Solutions gives you the tools to do that. They are out of Norway. And they were using logic apps to integrate and connect a lot of their APIs together. And I just want to call out the quote really quickly from their CEO. And he said, with Azure Logic Apps, we can deploy integration solutions quickly and do not have to deal with overhead to manage the solution. Logic Apps makes us more agile and help cut costs significantly. So all good things, right? All right, let's get into this. Let's do a demo. I've got a few here. So first, Azure API management. Let's go deeper into that. Why do we need Azure API management? There's a few things that are so important why if you are building APIs now, and those, I'm even going to say if these are SOAP APIs. If you have WCF or SOAP, or you have RESTful APIs, you really need API management. And there's a reason for that, okay? Whenever two systems need to talk to each other, they have to communicate through some type of an interface. And the interface, 9 times out of 10, should be an API, right? Whether a REST API or a SOAP API, some type of an API, because that API is the contract and how other systems can talk to you. So we live in this API economy where all these different services deploy, and if you need to talk to it, you talk to it through their API. Facebook's a great example. Facebook builds this powerful, rich social network, but Facebook would be little to what it is today if they didn't also publish this really powerful API. So that if I'm a consumer, I can say, hey, log in through Facebook, or hey, do you want to share what you just did on Facebook, or all those other things, all those billions of apps that let you do things with Facebook. So now Facebook is getting all these other people to create content for them. That's one of the most powerful things about it, and it's because they have a great API, and they manage that API, okay? So we live in an API world where APIs are now, I'll just read this quote about an API economy. It says, application programming interfaces, or APIs, have been elevated from a development technique to a business model driver and boardroom consideration. APIs should be managed like a product, one built on top of a potentially complex technical footprint that includes legacy and third-party systems and data. Okay? It used to be that an API was just something you ended up with. It was like, oh, that's interesting that this is here. But now APIs really do need to be treated like products. Okay? And just like a product, there's a lot of considerations that you need to have about your APIs. Right? How do you manage legacy APIs? How do you protect the core systems behind the API? How do you enforce policies? How do you make sure that only the right people are accessing your APIs and people you don't want accessing your APIs aren't? How you are engaging with developers. If no one knows about your API or how to use your API, is it worth anything, right? The whole if a tree falls and no one's around to hear it, it doesn't make a sound, okay? If you have an API and there's no documentation, do you really have an API, okay? How do you make using your APIs quick and easy? I don't know how many of you spend time developing or working with APIs. There are some APIs. I think Stripe is a great example of this. I think this is one thing that has made Stripe, the payment processing service, such a huge success. It's because their API is beautiful. You go to their documentation, it's like, hey, you want to process a transaction through Stripe? Here's exactly how you do it. Here's some code samples. Here's what the request looks like. Here's what the response looks like. And you're done. You're ready to go, okay? A few years ago, if you would have done the same thing with PayPal, it was like, holy crap. How in the world do I process something with PayPal without going and spending a week doing it? Now, obviously, PayPal has seen what Stripe has done. They've come a long way. But it's just showing you that APIs can be a huge advantage. And this isn't just, I want to pause here. This isn't just building APIs for partners or customers to use. This also holds true for internal APIs. I know I can speak for myself in my job. There's a lot of internal Microsoft systems that I use, whether it's systems to communicate with customers, systems to record interactions, systems to track our development cycle. And some of those services have great APIs that we're able to build into and extend very easily. Some of them have terrible APIs that are poorly documented and not managed, okay? That makes a huge difference in my productivity as an employee. So don't just think that, oh, I'm not Facebook, I'm, I don't know, some other company and I just have internal APIs. That's okay, the same still applies, okay? So Azure API Management provides all of these things for you out of the box. Just like every service, you could spend the weeks in development, and you could build your security policies directly into your API. You could build in rich monitoring and telemetry and tracing into your API. You could figure out a documentation portal and all that stuff, and you could do it by hand, and that's okay, but you don't have to anymore. You can use services like Azure API Management and just say, hey, I want you to talk to this API that I've already developed, and it just sticks all these things on top of it for you, okay? So you have your base API, which is down here at the bottom. So you either have like an API in Azure, an on-premises API, maybe it's even a third-party API, and you stick Azure API Management on top of it. So you get this nice level of abstraction. One of the nice things, so all of our APIs for Logic Apps, they're all behind Azure API Management. And one of the great things that it provides us is that abstraction so that the core code is separated from the people calling it. Let me give you an example of one thing where that's valuable. So over the Christmas holiday break, we had someone who decided to call one of our APIs something like 1 million times in a single minute. Now, I don't know if it was a DDoS attack or if they just wrote a for loop and they didn't understand what they were doing. But either way, our API got 1 million calls to it. Now, what's incredible is Azure API Management saw those 1 million calls. It only passed a handful of them down to our actual API, and the other ones it stopped at the API management layer and started sending back 429 responses saying, hey, you're giving me too much, I'm not going to pass it back. So our core back-end systems were totally protected because Azure API Management sat on top of it and was able to throttle that traffic as needed. And that throttling is just a configuration setting. It's super easy to do, but it adds such valuable protection. You can put middleware inside of your API management. If there's transformations or validation logic you want to do, you can do it. You get monitoring out of the box, so you can see who's calling my API, how much is it being used, am I getting errors? And then my favorite part of Azure API Management is the development experience. It provides documentation for you. It automatically generates documentation for all of your APIs, and I'll show you that in a second. Okay? All right. So let's go ahead and look at API Management really quickly. So I'm going to switch now over here to the Azure portal. And I have here an API and API Management. Let's actually start here. So again, I'm just at azure.com. If you don't have an Azure account yet, you can get like $200 free trial pretty easily. If you do have one, you should check out API Management. You can see here I can actually import APIs from a number of different places. I could say, hey, I'm starting with a new API. Just give me a blank slate, and I'll start connecting things to it. You could use what's called Swagger or Open API specification to import an API. You can hide a Logic app as an API, soon a function, or if you're using Waddle or WSDL, SOAP, for instance, you can point to your WSDL endpoint, and it will just generate it for you. So you'll notice here on the left, these are the different APIs that I've already imported. So I have like accounts, customers, employee details. And I could click into each of these and see exactly what operations I'm exposing, and different pieces like that. Control some of that stuff like throttling, test it, settings, all that great stuff. Okay. I want to switch over here to the management portal. I guess this one doesn't have a whole lot because I haven't used these demo APIs in a while. Oh, here we go. So again, I have this on-screen display to understand exactly the health of all of my systems. This just comes out of the box. I can see exactly who's been calling my APIs, if there's any errors or issues being reported. I can control security. I can control access policies or analytics or users directly from this portal. So I could say, hey, I want to restrict this API to only people who have this secret key. Or you could say, connect this to Azure Active Directory. Or you could say, this is an open API, let anyone use it, but don't let anyone send 1 million requests a minute. And again, the one part I just want to show quickly is this development portal. Now, this is the out-of-the-box development portal. I have not done anything to this yet. You can customize this. You can give it great branding. I'll show you a customer in a second who's done just that. But for all of my systems that I've now added to API management, it has generated for me documentation. So again, here's all my APIs again. So I have this, we'll say orders. I have this orders API. And you see when I click this, it knows here's the different operations I have, create order or get orders. And I have awesome documentation ready for me right now. So I can say, hey, go ahead and try this out. I want to see what it looks like when I try it. I know what all the required parameters are. I even get code samples right down here at the bottom. So imagine now, instead of your API documentation being some Word document sitting on your desktop that someone's got to email you and figure out, hey, who owns the order system? How do I use it? And that ordered API documentation is now on V1, and you've moved to V6. Now you get this automatically generated for you. And what's awesome is that this API documentation stays up to date as you update your API. So let's say in create order, I go ahead and I add a new field where I want you to pass in, I don't know, the order amount, because in this case, I'm not asking for a whole lot. As soon as I do that on the API side and the API management side, this documentation automatically will start showing that the code samples are updated. So I don't have to worry about my documentation being out of sync. And again, this could just be, hey, I want to restrict, and so only my employees can see the different systems that we have. Or if you are exposing your API to partners or customers like Facebook and Twitter do, in the same way you could expose it through something like API management here. So that's just really quickly showing you how you can use API management. This is one of the largest API management customers. It's Blackbaud. They do a bunch of systems to help with nonprofits. Nonprofits, you've got to do a bunch of stuff around raising funds and how you deal with those funds. It gets very complicated. So they have a great API to help nonprofits make that easier. This is their development portal. Obviously, they've customized it a little bit with their own branding. But it's behind the scenes, it's still automatically generated from API management. So if I'm a nonprofit, I want to use their API, I go to this portal. I don't know that it's Azure API Management, but I click documentation. I'm able to see exactly how to use each of their operations, sign up to get a key, test it out, get code samples in the same way that you can. And again, it's just created for you automatically. Okay? So that's API management. Again, this is my firm rule. If you have an API, you need to have it managed. Okay? You are living on borrowed time for all of the time you have an unmanaged API. It's just becoming, as APIs become more like products, you just have to manage it the same way you manage products. You need some type of management around it. Okay, let's pivot now to Azure Logic Apps, and then we'll do a full end-to-end story. Okay, so Logic Apps, we've talked about how we have different types of triggers. I'll just jump this up quickly. You could have a workflow fire on a recurrence basis. So like, hey, every day, go and process all this stuff. You can check different APIs, like go look at Salesforce. You can fire on HTTP requests, webhooks, on-demand, and all that stuff. I don't need to go into the nitty-gritty details. We have a lot of different actions that you can use within a Logic app, and I'll show you these shortly. I can call connectors. I can call other Azure services. I can call HTTP endpoints. So let me give you an example of one of the Logic apps I built to show you why building a workflow in something like Logic Apps and using these capabilities is valuable. So back last April when Microsoft announced the bot framework, I was like, oh man, this is really cool. I want to build a bot. So I built a bot where I could talk to it on Telegram, the messaging app. And I would talk to my bot on Telegram and say, what are the new bugs for this week? Or what features are developers working on? And what that bot would do is it would actually fire off a Logic app. And that Logic app would use the Visual Studio connector to go look at our Visual Studio, see what the open bugs were, what the features in the current sprint were, and then return the response back to the bot, and I would get this nice text message back that said, here are the 10 bugs that are currently being worked on. Okay? Now, I could have built that logic directly into the code. I could have gone and written some Visual Studio connection logic. But there were a few times that I noticed I would go and ask my bot something, and our instance of Visual Studio, which we've since upgraded to the cloud, would be down, or something would not be working. Okay? Now, when I was building this over the weekend, I wasn't thinking about exception handling. I wasn't thinking about retry policies or resiliency or at-once guaranteed delivery. I was just thinking about talking to Visual Studio. But what was incredible is because it was Logic Apps, that stuff just comes for you. Okay? So when my Logic app would go to Visual Studio and say, give me all of the bugs, and Visual Studio returned back, hey, I'm busy right now, or I'm down, or some kind of an error, Logic Apps would store that and know, hey, I need to wait for a few seconds and try this again. And the automatic retry policy would kick in and have a lot of resiliency in my integration. I could also set up alerts so that if anything ever failed, I would get a text message saying, hey, one of your Logic Apps is broken. All that stuff just comes to you out of the box. You don't have to worry about thinking in that mindset when you're building it. You just say, here's what I need you to connect to, and you get those things like retry policy and alerting and monitoring and at-once guaranteed delivery for you. Okay? I'm going to skip this. This gets all. This is worth calling out, though. So depending on where you're working, this might be a slide some of you can just wait for 15 seconds, and I'll be on to the next one. But for some of you, this is some gold nuggets here. Okay? EDI. If you're dealing with any EDI, Edifact, X12, AS2 type workloads, you're doing order processing or anything around that, you can do that processing directly in a Logic app. One of the awesome things about this, I already mentioned some of the stuff around, the payment. You only pay for what you use. But it's so easy to build a cloud-based EDI processing system through Azure Logic Apps. So you can pass things like flat file or XML. You can validate it. You can map it. You can set up partner agreements. And you can do all this in the Azure cloud, so you don't have to worry about building or managing any of that infrastructure. Again, based on the content level of this session, I'm not going to go into that. But if this interests you, if you're doing anything in this space today, come and talk to me, because I want to show you how you can do some cool stuff with that. I'll just talk now about Reply SolidSoft. I think this is a great example of a customer who wasn't building something new, like the TransAlta, the Canadian renewable energy customer I mentioned. They were doing something totally new, greenfield, right? They were going and sticking IoT devices on windmills, and they had a lot of leverage to do that. Well, Reply SolidSoft was the other spectrum. They partnered with a UK grocery store retailer, and that person, retail shop, already had a huge ordering system. They already had this legacy on-premise system on how people could, grocery stores or different outlets could order groceries. But they wanted to extend it, and they wanted to start doing a home delivery service, right? You'll notice a lot of different, with like Amazon Fresh or whatever. I know we've got a few local grocery stores in Seattle that now you order online, and they'll either have it ready for you for pickup, or sometimes they'll even drop it off at your house. So that's what these people in the UK wanted to do. They wanted to build this new home delivery grocery system. But they already had a bunch of legacy stuff. They already had a bunch of on-premises WCF or SOAP endpoints. And now they needed to extend it to do this home delivery thing, and they needed to do it quickly because the market is rapidly moving around grocery store delivery service. They didn't want to be left behind. So they worked with Reply SolidSoft, and Reply SolidSoft said, hey, let's check out Azure Logic Apps and API Management and see how we can extend your legacy systems and just add this new capabilities on top of it without having to add any infrastructure. And so they went ahead and they did that, and in the course of 3 months, they were able to build an end-to-end system so that now when you place a delivery for home groceries, it gets the order, it goes and alerts the vendor that they have that does the delivery, and it says, hey, we have a new order. It emails the customer and says, hey, we got your home delivery order. And then it integrates with all their legacy systems and makes sure that the order's processed and all the good stuff is done. And again, they were able to do that in just a few months and launch that into production. So let's talk about our story then. This is the story I want to talk about. Look at those dogs. Those were the cutest dogs I could find that I had license to use last night while I was preparing this presentation. Okay? So I want to do a story with you now, and I want to show you how end-to-end you can quickly build this with Azure Logic Apps and API Management. And you're going to see some stuff here that's going to blow your mind, okay? Because it blows my mind, and I love doing it. All right. So you are now all, whatever company you worked for before you got into this room, you are all now employees at the Dog Paw Spa, okay? I don't know. I hope it's not like, well, I don't know. I'm a dog person. I like dogs. But in Seattle, people love their dogs, okay? I know when I walk out of like the grocery store near my house, there are 2 dog grooming spas right next to each other, okay? There are more dog grooming spas than grocery stores in my city. I don't understand it. It's a big deal. So it's a big business, and we bought into it. We're all going to get rich. And so we have 100 locations nationwide. And we've got some legacy on-premises systems that we need to talk to. And here's one of the problems we have. So we've got, a website that tells all the different branches that we have. But when you have 100 branches, if any of you are working in a business where you deal with multiple locations, you know that those locations, things are always changing. Maybe a manager's recently left or a new manager is there. You need to keep that up to date. They've gotten a new phone number, leases expired, they're moving locations all of the time. And keeping that data up to date has been challenging. And the problem is customers now go to Google or Bing and they say, hey, where's my local dog spa? And it says, oh, you have one around the corner. And they show up and it says, hey, we've moved. And they're upset. So we need to keep that data up to date more easily. But today the system is much like many enterprise systems, very robust and powerful. And that if you want to update the branch information, you've got to email some database admin and say, can you please update this branch information? And then keep nagging him 100 times until he finally updates the location. And he's got all these requests coming in every single month. So it's not a scalable system. Okay? And in addition, we're going to get to this last one. Different locations have different supply and demand type stuff, so they might have different prices. If you're building a dog spa in my city right now, you'd probably want to be pretty cheap to compete with the other two that are right outside my grocery store. But maybe if you're in some new area and it's pretty wealthy and they love their dogs, maybe you want to have different prices. So today, all of their branches have a custom pricing sheet, and we need to modernize all of this. Okay? So the business group comes to us and they say, we need to make it so that we can manage our locations easier. We need to empower our employees. We need to empower those citizen integrators and those citizen developers or those power users to actually update this information. And we also need to do a better way of doing this price sheet. So that's the challenge that we've been start with, and I'm just going to demo quickly how we can do that very quickly with Microsoft Azure. So let's come back over here. I'm going to go ahead and open this Logic app in the Azure portal called Update Branch. If you come into Azure and you click New, you can choose New Logic app and get your own up and running, ready to go. So the first one we want to do is, actually not this one even. Let me start from blank. We'll go to the templates view. So the first Logic app I want to build is I want a way for an application to let me know that some branch information needs to be updated. I want a way for a user to say, hey, go and update the current manager or go and update when this business opens and have that get processed and integrate with our own APIs. Okay? So we're going to start with the Logic app here. You see here when you start with the Logic app, you can start from a number of different templates. We have EDI templates, Dynamics templates, Office templates. Again, if you've seen or know about Microsoft Flow, this will look very familiar because it's the same back-end system. Logic apps just provides more scalability and kind of configuration power as you need it. So how do you want to start this Logic app? Well, in our case, we're going to use a new service, and I'll go into it in a brief bit, called the Common Data Service. Now, the Common Data Service is the backing of Dynamics 365 and Microsoft Power Apps. I'm not going to go into it a whole bunch now, but let's just say when a record is updated in the Common Data Service, I want to fire off this Logic app. So let's go ahead and quickly choose the database, and we want it to be a branch entity. Whenever someone tries to update a branch from a Power App, is what we're going to do, go ahead and fire off this Logic app. Okay? So let's choose branch. Man, that drop-down's not playing along nice with me. Let's go ahead and check this. We'll check it fairly frequently. We'll go ahead and check every 15 seconds to see if someone has requested for a branch to be updated. Now, the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure, is the person who's trying to update this branch, do they have authorization to just update it, or do we need to do something like an approval? So first, we need to figure out who has access to update the branch. So again, I just want to show you how easy it is to talk to things like API management. If we have added in this branch system into API management, I can go ahead and say, hey, as one of my steps in my workflow, talk to one of my own APIs in API management. And you'll notice when I click this, now it's looking at my subscription, and it's saying, here are the 2 API management instances you have. I'll go ahead and open this one. You notice I have this nice thing called a branch API. It looks just like what I need. That's actually not the one that I need, though. I need the branch management API. Let me back out. It's OK. You get to see repetition and see how easy this is. So I'm going to go ahead and say I want to talk to an API management API, and I want to use this branch management API. I guess I didn't delete that other test one. And let's go ahead and get some information on a current branch, the branch they're trying to update. And this is going to return to us who has access to update that branch. So again, one of the great things here when I come into this Logic app if this would update correctly. I don't know why this isn't working how it should, is that I can select outputs from different steps. This one's not playing along nice with us right now. So let me go ahead and switch back here. That's interesting. That's okay. I'll skip that for now. Okay, and then let's go ahead and we can do things like, here I went into that too fast. Let me go back a step. Sorry about that. Okay, so other than just adding actions in a workflow, I can do other things like adding conditions. So if, then, else logic. I can do loops. I can do switches. I can do untils, whatever I want. So in this case, I want to do a condition. I want to say, if the person who's trying to update this is the manager, go ahead and let him update it. If it's not the manager, let's get some approval first. So again, I click here. This is what I was hoping would show you. You'll notice that this is showing you all of the outputs that are going to be available at the time that this runs. So in this case, I want to say if the, it's this trigger that's given us the issue. It's probably because I had so much issues with this dropdown. Let's see if that fixes it out. So I want to say if the manager name from API management is equal to the modified by, so if the person who's trying to modify this is the same person as the manager, right? So let's go ahead and name that. If the person modifying is the manager. That's what I'm checking here. So if it is the manager, I don't need to do anything. If it's not the manager, I want to show you some of the other cool actions that you can do within something like a workflow. So if I scroll down here and I come down to Outlook, I can do some pretty cool steps here. So let's go ahead and say Office 365 Outlook. And I can do the send an approval email step. Now what's great is that the workflow at this point is going to send this email through Office 365, but it's actually going to sit here and wait. And it will wait for up to 3 months until this person responds to this email. So in this case, I'm going to give them 2 options. They can either approve this email or reject this email. And after it sends this email, it's just going to sit there and wait until they approve it or reject it. So let's just go ahead and send this to me. I guess I should send it to the manager email, huh? Let's go ahead and do that then. Let's send it to the manager email and say approval request to update branch. And I could obviously write some body and say here's what they're trying to update, but I'm not going to take the time to do that. Okay? And after this, I could continue to add conditions and see if it was approved or rejected or not. We're not going to go into that now. And again, the last thing I just want to show you is how, again, if I need to actually update that branch, I could come in here to the branch management API, say update the branch, and I have this first class card. This is my own API. This is our own API that we imported to API management. But just the way that with Outlook I had that nice connection experience, I have that same experience here where I can start saying, hey, let the title be the title of the record that they updated. Okay? So you get the idea how easy it is to update these types of records inside of a Logic app. That's just an example of building a workflow. So how are we going to make this accessible to users? And how I want to do this in our case is through Microsoft Power Apps. Now, in any way, I could say make this Logic app fire from my own mobile application, but I use that common data service, and that's because I'm using Microsoft Power Apps. I don't know how many of you here are familiar with Power Apps, but it's a really powerful and great solution that's recently been released as part of the Office suite to let you build applications that run on a phone in many of the same ways that you would build a PowerPoint presentation. So you'll notice here I'm looking at different screens of an app, but just like in PowerPoint, how I could click in here and change some text or do whatever I needed to do, I can do that right here in this designer and go ahead and save and publish this and share this out with other people in my business, and then they could run this as an application on their phones, iOS, Android, Windows, or computers. So again, I can really easily create this Power App, say go and talk to that common data service and give them an application. So now I could give this app to my employees, and I could say, hey, here's all the branches that we have. In this case, we have this nice branch. It's our Chicago branch. I can drill into this. This is now talking to that. And when I come here and I edit something, so if I edited, I don't know, my phone number to 5555 and click check, when it updates that record, what's happening behind the scenes is it's gone. It's fired off a Logic app. That Logic app is now processing. It's going to call our own API. It's going to do that comparison. It's going to send me an approval email. And if it gets approved, it's going to update the API. If it gets rejected, I didn't finish building logic, but it could reject it as well. But you get the idea. Obviously, I'm on stage, so I'm not doing all of this in front of you live. But I just wanted to show you how using some of these tools like Microsoft Power Apps and Azure Logic Apps, you can build these types of integration solutions to talk to your own APIs, to talk to other services like Office, and to interact with each other. One of the great things about something like Power Apps is that you can empower your employees as well. So if I share a Power App with someone, they can modify it. Maybe one of your branches is like, hey, what would be cool is if I had another page that listed the schedule of my employees. They can go ahead and modify their copy of the app and include that and connect to something like Google Calendar or Office Calendar and do that very easy as well. So you're empowering your employees at the same time you're building the solutions. So if I come back here, let's see if I can open up the right logic app that I did ahead of time, and we would actually be able to see this run and work. Let's see here, update branch. I think this one. Oh, was this the one that was blank? That's okay, I'll just open this one. So this is an example of an app that was running. I didn't do this one. I'm not going to dig through my subscription and try to find it. But again, I can see here with any of my apps, I get this monitoring out of the box automatically. So I was able to see at 10:41 this morning. You'll look at that timestamp. At 10:41 this morning, this ran, and it got this record from Power Apps. It was updating my New York branch information. It got this response back from API management. But I got this nice historical view of the run. I get that for all of my logic apps. I could resubmit this run if I needed to. One of the awesome things is that I can actually click automation script. And this exact workflow that we've created, we could now generate an automation deployment template and deploy this logic app through a PowerShell or through Node or through any of our other Azure tools. And you can deploy an exact copy of this logic app into any region in the world. And it's ready in seconds. So again, we have like PowerShell, CLI, .NET, Ruby. These are all the different samples of how you could deploy an exact copy of this app into any Azure region in the world. OK, I think that's enough for that one. Let's do some of this other interesting stuff. Let's show you some of the capabilities you can plug into. So I want to open the second logic app. I'm not going to build this one on stage. You don't have to see me fumble or fitz with it, so that's fine. I just want to show you, I'm going to walk through this, and then we're going to see this work. Because I mentioned how my favorite connectors, I'll actually show you what some of my favorite connectors are. My favorite connectors in this service, and the ones where if you go to like Logic Apps Try and you try this out, my favorite connectors are things like text analytics. Okay? Let me show you this. So text analytics calls one of the Azure services called Cognitive Services, and it gives you those powerful capabilities like detecting sentiment, key phrases, or language for some text that you send. So you can imagine you fire a logic app on an email to your customer email list, and you want to detect the sentiment of the email, and then if it's a really angry customer, go ahead and send them an email or go ahead and send a text message to your on-call customer service rep and be like, you have a really pissed off customer, go check it out. And if it's a really happy email, maybe you don't have to do anything about it. I don't know, maybe you post it to your Yammer group and you say, look how happy our customers are. Okay, I don't know what you want to do with it. But again, talking to those services is as easy as just dropping one of those steps into your Logic app, and now I can go ahead and detect the sentiment of any text that I'm going to drop in here. So those types of cognitive services, like detecting faces, detecting text, are as easy to drop in as you need. So if you remember about a year ago, Microsoft launched this site during one of their conferences to demo some of their AI technologies called howold.net. I would assume many of you saw that. You probably tried it out. But the website was pretty simple. You uploaded a picture. It would use machine learning to analyze the picture and tell you how old your face looked based on this magical science that happens in Azure. Okay? Did any of you guys use that or see that and see how old you were and your gender? Hopefully you did. There was a little less known site that was also launched called whatdog.net. And if you go to whatdog.net, you can actually upload a picture of a dog, and it will detect the breed of the dog for you automatically. And it will give you some information about the dog. And just like you can drop in, face analytics and detecting faces in a Logic app, we can also drop in something like, let's detect the breed of a dog in our workflow. So hang on with me here. What this workflow is doing is I want my application to send a picture of a dog. Maybe a dog and a client have walked into our dog paw spa. And we want to know what's the breed of the dog, and based on the branch that I'm at, how much should we charge to spa this dog, right? And I also don't want people to walk in and to fill out some form or to follow some chart on the wall. I don't want to do a bunch of data entry. All the data that I need to know how much this dog should cost can be summed up in a single picture. And that's what I want to empower my dog spa employees to do, is take a picture of a dog and know exactly all the information they need to act. And I'm going to do that, again, through Azure Logic Apps really quickly. So this workflow is pretty simple. I'm going to get a request from a Power App. My Power App's going to send me an HTTP request that has the picture of the dog. I'm going to save the picture of the dog into Azure Storage, so I have it for future reference. And then I'm going to call that detect breed API, that whatdog.net. And I'm going to detect what the breed of the dog is. Then I'm going to calculate the price based on the breed. So I'm going to send my own little workflow system. I want to know, like, what's the breed, what was the branch location, and this is going to call an Azure function, which is going to go ahead and detect the breed of the dog. And then finally, I just want to send a nice response back to my Power App that says, hey, here's how much it should cost, here's what the breed was, here's what the dog was, and here's what not, okay? So again, pretty straightforward. Let's go ahead and see this run now. So if I come back here to this Power App from before, I want to go ahead and switch to this view. Let's go ahead and clear that. You see I already did German Shepherd, so you got to give me a new one. This is now this application that we built. You could have the same application running on Windows, iOS, Android. But again, let's pretend you've given this application to your employees and you say, hey, now whenever you need to price a dog, just take a picture of the dog and click submit. And you'll know exactly how much you should charge for them based on your branch. Okay? Really going to speed things up, make us more competitive, give us more power around our pricing per branch. So to see this work, and then we'll go ahead and look at the debug view, I need somebody to shout out the breed of a dog, and I will pull up a picture and we'll see if this works. So anyone have a preference? Okay, German, what is this? German short-haired pointer? Okay, it showed up in Bing. Let's see how this works then. All right, so here is a beautiful picture of a, if my screen rotation would work, of a German short-haired pointer. Do you have a German short-haired pointer? Let's see how this works then. Okay, so there it is. Let's say this dog walks into our shop. I'm taking a picture of a picture with some glare, but I still have faith in Azure Cognitive Services. I'm going to go ahead and click Submit, which is going to go and push the picture of this dog excuse me, into the Power App that we were just looking at. And now let's go ahead and switch over to this next page, excuse me, where we have information on the picture we just sent. Look at that! So it knew, based on that picture, that this was a German short-haired pointer. I should charge $77.83. It was a dog, and even gives us some nice attributes about this dog. A great sense of smell, love of water, and active, okay? That's pretty incredible stuff. The fact that now in a single picture, my employee just snaps a picture, and they have all the data that they need because I was able to tap into those services like Azure Machine Learning within my integration workflow. I was able to just connect it into my existing workflow, my work streams, and do what I needed to do, okay? So to prove that this really does work again, in case you're not already convinced, I'm going to go ahead and just take a picture of me right there. And let's see what it detects my breed as. We'll see how accurate it is. Let's see if we can foil the system. And you'll notice that there was that nice flag to detect if it was a dog. Hey, I'm more expensive to wash than a German short-haired pointer. So it recognized that I was not a dog. Okay, so there was a flag where it's like, this is not a dog. But it still gave me a breed, which is generous. And in my case, it's saying I'm a Labrador Retriever. I like this. Look at these keywords. Strong, muscular body, smart, waterproof coat. I don't know about the waterproof part, but I'll take the strong, muscular body and smart thing, okay? So again, having a little bit more fun with it, but just showing you, if we come back over here to our Logic app, we'll see again that, what time is it, 5:38? So here are the two runs that just happened. And I can open up any run of these. So let's open that German short-haired pointer. I got the request. It's not going to show us the picture because it's too large to display. It sent it, and then it detected the breed. And you'll notice here, if I come down, it was able to detect it was a German short-haired pointer. All the other data it had, was able to calculate the price and send my response back to the Power App. So again, I know I did a lot of that very quickly. My purpose in this presentation wasn't necessarily give a step-by-step tutorial. We have a number of different tutorials and walkthroughs and demos on doing this on Channel 9 and on our website. But it was just to try to open up your minds to say, hey, maybe tapping into those things like cognitive services and machine learning isn't as difficult as I've imagined it could be in the past. Maybe I can do things like, hey, I've already made investments in social media through Twitter or Facebook. Maybe I can just build a logic app that's going to do the, I'll show you that one. I'll show you the one I was just mentioning. What was it called? Twitter to Power BI, I think. This is the one that's been running to, Twitter to Power BI. This one's been running a ton. Oh, till 4:09, it looks like I disabled it. That's fine. So again, this is another logic app that you could all build. I actually just recorded a video of building this exact one. This would be so quick to build, it's not even funny. I'll actually walk you through it because we have some time, and I think it's worth doing because if you're going to try one out, this is a good one to go to. So let me switch open to Power BI and come over here quickly. I don't know what this dashboard is, so hopefully it's something I'm not supposed to show. To Logic Apps demo. Okay, so here we have a blank Logic Apps or a blank Power BI dashboard. And we have here built a Logic App Designer of when a tweet is posted. I don't know. Right now it's listening to the term Azure. Should I do MS Tech Summit, or does anyone have a different Twitter search term I should listen to? Any suggestions? Usually when I say this, there's always one answer, and it always comes right away. There it is! That is how you break your Logic app, okay? Let's go ahead and change this then to listen to Trump. I'm going to go ahead and enable this because I disabled it ahead of time. So let's close this and change this to enabled so it starts listening. All right, it said it didn't save. Too many concurrent requests. That's fine. Let's come back here and change this to Trump. So this will be running while I'm walking you through this Logic app. Again, just giving you an example. Okay, so all I'm doing here is, let's say I have a product launch, or I'm interested in Twitter. This could be Facebook. This could be anything else. This could be Salesforce. I don't know. We have all those connectors. You saw the big list, okay? I'm just going to drop in 2 steps here, detect the sentiment of the tweet, pull out any of the key phrases from the tweet. I'm calling an Azure function here, which is going to do some custom code. This is JavaScript in this case. It's just going to run some custom code and pretty up those key phrases for us. And then the final step is I'm just going to add some rows into my Power BI data set. And again, I have this Power BI dashboard. I was able to just drop in those different pieces that I wanted to show up in my dashboard. So I could drop in the tweet text, drop in the sentiment, drop in the location of where they're tweeting, when it was created, and any of the key phrases. So I just saved that, I don't know, 15 seconds ago. My guess is, based on the topic, that this dashboard is going to start lighting up very quickly. Let's go ahead and refresh this. And I would expect that in the short future, let's even run it and we'll watch this run. With a search term like Trump, it shouldn't take very long to get this thing populated. But again, you'll see here, once this starts going, I'm not sure why it's not displaying right now, but it's picking up some things. It's my Azure function, that's why. I might have turned it off. But it's grabbing tweets, it's detecting the sentiment, it's pulling out the key phrases, and then it's calling my Azure function, which was sleeping because I wasn't using it in so long. That's what's taking all these so long to execute, but they'll pick themselves back up. And then eventually it's going to drop it into Power BI. So again, this tweet said, Trump's inaugural festivities are like a horrible episode of America's Got Talent Outcasts. That's impressive. And it got a sentiment score of 57, right? So 57 out of 100. It's not the most negative thing you could say, but it's obviously not very positive. And then once my Azure function wakes up from its slumber, you'll notice that this Power BI dashboard gets updated. So now it's starting. These tweets are starting to populate in. While I'm talking, I'll just leave this up, and you'll watch in real time all of these people who are tweeting about Trump. We're pulling out the sentiment scores. We're pulling out the key phrases, the locations. You can see, like in real time, a lot of people are tweeting about Trump. And the average sentiment score is about 0.7. So not the most positive, but not terribly negative. And you can just keep watching this. But again, that Logic app is 6 steps. But imagine how powerful that would be if you had some type of a product launch and you said, hey, here's a Power BI dashboard that you can watch light up. You could stick this up on a display and see real time as people are engaging with you on Twitter. The same thing for any of our other connectors like Salesforce or Instagram or whatnot. And for more enterprise scenarios, right? I need to place orders with Walmart through Edifact. help me to do that and monitor that through some of our out-of-the-box monitoring capabilities. So again, I think you get the idea. This is all real. It is not magic. I think some of my hiccups showed you that it was real because not everything worked exactly how I wanted it to. But you're seeing this map is continuing to light up. If any of you just tweeted about Trump, you probably would have been a nice dot over here near Chicago. Okay, let's come back over to this deck, and I'll just close it off. And then I've got some time here for questions. One next step, if you're interested, we actually have a solution template where we will deploy a Power BI solution template automatically for you. So if you go to powerbi.com and you look at their solution templates, there's one called Brand Management through social media. And we'll actually go and build a Logic App in an Azure subscription for you, very similar to the one I just had. Build a Power BI dashboard for you, and you get this awesome report for any search term that you're interested in. So this is one of my favorite graphs. I know it looks really noisy, but you can actually drill in on a topic, in this case Power BI, and you can see exactly where the network of influencers are and who those people are influenced by and so on. It builds like this nice web. So you can say, like, here's the big people who are talking about Power BI, and each of them have their own people that are talking about them, and so on and so forth. So you can really get some amazing insights into something as simple as a Twitter stream, but again, very rapidly deployed for you. I'll just briefly go into this. This is another one of those slides where if this is in your realm, it's awesome. If it's not, that's fine. You get full control in Logic Apps over things like schemas for your data, map certificates, partner agreements, partners and agreements, so that if you're doing things around Edifact X12, any enterprise integration things, you have that management directly in the portal, and you can deploy it as well. The last thing I'll mention, I did all of my demos today in the web portal of azure.com. You can do the exact same things within Visual Studio itself. So if you download the Logic Apps add-on, you can build your Logic Apps in Visual Studio. You can check those Logic Apps into source control. And this part's hard to illustrate, but if you start working with it and you get it, it's incredible. But the artifact of building a Logic App is that deployment template. So you get a nice JSON document of exactly what your workflow is. What's incredible about that is you can take that deployment template and in seconds have an exact copy of that workflow deployed anywhere in the world. So to give you an example, I had a live site incident with a customer a few months ago, and one of their downstream systems had broke, and so their Logic App wasn't working. And so I ended up getting on the call with them because it was a customer I worked a lot with, and we were trying to figure out what do we do. And so they'd been down for 5 minutes, and they were like, hey, this is a critical system for us. It keeps our CRM data in sync. And we got on the phone, and one of their devs got on the phone, and they said, hey, we're having issues here in an Australia region. We need now to go build this in a different Azure region so we can overcome the issue that we're facing right now with one of our systems. And usually if you hear a call like that, it's like, well, crap, I'm going to have to stay up all night. I'm going to have to go and install or configure and do everything in this other region. But what this developer was able to do is just take that template that he built in Visual Studio, right-click it, say deploy to Japan West, and 15 seconds later he said, OK, this thing's resolved. We have the exact everything deployed in a different resource group in Japan. Right? That's the kind of power you get when you build these solutions in the cloud, because you don't have to worry about all those things that you're spending a bunch of time configuring. You just say, I need Twitter to talk to this, to talk to that, to talk to the other with these conditions. In Brazil South, go, and then everything else is taken care of for you. So it allows you to focus on what you want to focus on and let the rest be managed by the service itself. So if you're interested in learning more, you want to try this out, I'll be around at the Ask the Experts event that starts in a few minutes. You can try it yourself. If you don't have an Azure account and you go to this top URL, this, by the way, if you're going to take a picture of a slide, this is probably the right one. So if you want to give this a shot, if you want to look at the designer and see how you can start tying things together, Logic Apps Try, that URL will give you that. You don't even have to have an Azure subscription. You just have to have an email address. If you want to vote for any features, if you're like, hey, this is incredible, but what I could really use is PeopleSoft or HIPAA or whatever else, or HL7, I'm sorry. You can vote for those features there. Those are a few that I dropped that we're currently working on, which is why I mentioned them. If you want to keep up on capabilities, we have documentation, so you can learn more. We've got a blog. We have a live webcast. We'll be doing one next week where we give updates. We've got a newsletter, and we're on Twitter at LogicApps.io as well. I don't have the links here for API management. I don't know where that slide went, but if you have questions on API management, you can reach out to us on any of these forums or talk to me directly. We are all in the same team. So the last thing I'll just say is don't forget about the Ask the Experts reception, which happens, I think, in 10 minutes. So that's just at Hall D1. I'll be there with a bunch of the other people who came down from Seattle, as well as local partners and MVPs and whatnot. I guess that was a timed slide. But Hall D1. The last thing is feel free to ask any questions. I'll hang around here if you want to come up, or I'll be at the reception. And then finally, be sure to fill out your session evaluations, give feedback on what was valuable with this session, anything you would have liked to see. Those session evaluations are really what dictate what we get to present in future tech summits. So with that, I will let you go on your way. Thank you from Microsoft for coming today. It's great getting to meet all of you and talk with you today. Feel free to come up if you have any more questions, and I'm more happy to make time during my stay. So thanks so much.